Look, man, if we learn anything from that Super Bowl dominant victory by the Philadelphia Eagles, is that the trenches matter on both sides of the football. And I'm going to be honest, for my Carolina Panthers, when Dan Morgan got hired about a year ago, we were not even close to being anywhere in the stratosphere of the Eagles on both sides of the ball. But the first order of business for Dan Morgan was to invest in the trenches on the offensive side of the football, mainly the interior. He wanted to get bigger, stronger, nastier. That's why he paid over $150 million in contract value for Damian Lewis and Robert Hunt. And it definitely was necessary to spend that type of cash in free agency because we know in Bryce Young's rookie year in 2023, he was sacked over 60 times, and with so many injuries to the guard position, they played over 8 guards between the left and the right side of the football. And it has paid off and paid dividends because we saw the progress that this group made. And as a unit, they've been highly regarded as one of the better units in the league this year. And this move completely changed the identity of the offense as we saw our running back Chuba Hubbard have one of the highest success rates in the NFL in terms of his runs and total over 1,100 yards, almost 1,200 yards total on the year. But the real testament for the offensive line was for them to have one of the higher totals in yards before contact per carry. I like to look at yards before contact as the metric of what the offensive line is able to block for the running back and him not having to do any work. So it's just a testament to how good they were able to keep Chuba Hubbard clean on most of his runs. But the unfortunate side of it is the other side of the football really wasn't shown much love, and after losing Brian Burns, if that wasn't enough, having Derrick Brown go down in week 1 versus the New Orleans Saints was just a gut punch because it exposed the lack of depth that we have in the trenches, mainly on that defensive side of the ball. Every team and their mama tried to run the ball on the Carolina Panthers, even if that wasn't their type of time. The numbers were just nasty. They gave up over 10 150-yard games and 6 200-yard games on the season. It was just week after week after week, teams knowing what they wanted to do coming in every week, the Panthers knowing what teams wanted to do, and they still couldn't stop. And something like that feels like it would be enough to be a fireable offense. But after the season, general manager Dan Morgan really fell on the sword, man. He took the blame for the lack of personnel on that side, mainly in the trenches. And he vowed to make a difference like he did on the offensive side of the ball when he spent that check in allocating resources there. And that's exactly what he did. He brought in free agents like Bobby Brown III and Tershawn Wharton, 2 interior D linemen that have Super Bowl pedigree. He also brought in Pat Jones to play the edge, a guy that was a rotational guy that plays with a lot of intensity and a high motor from the Minnesota Vikings, and gave him a chance to get more playing time and a bigger and more significant role here in Carolina. Now, free agency was the main course. The dessert was the draft, where we decided to double dip at edge rushers on round 2 and round 3 with Nick Scorton and Princely Umamielen. And the cherry on top of that dessert was Cam Jackson, the big body D lineman from the University of Florida, who's a big space eater, 6'5", 320 pounds, and is used to taking up space and two gapping in that Florida Gator system that he comes from. So in this video, I want to look at this new D line that we brought in, how we've completely remixed what we've had and improved it, the depth that we added. I want to look at some film clips, and at the end, I'm going to break down a lot of the formations and personnel groupings that they can kind of play around with if they wanted to. Now that we have this depth, I think we can really have a chance to see what Ejiro Evero is actually made of, since we finally put some significant resources to that side of the ball. If he's going to be around, we might as well hope to get the best out of him, and I'm expecting to see the best. But if you're new to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. I got a lot of breakdowns like this coming up as we lead up to the season, just to give you a preview of what we could see during the year as this season starts to roll out. Now, Ejiro Evero was actually interviewed this offseason in between some of the practices and OTAs and the mini camps, and he was asked about what would be done different this year compared to last year. He tends to keep stuff close to the vest anyway, doesn't like to give away trade secrets, but there is one thing that he did say.
From like a defensive line standpoint, you brought in a bunch of different body types in free agency. Obviously, there were run issues last year. Do you see a way of like kind of morphing the way you play the defensive line or that front seven now that you've kind of taken in last year?
And you know, everything that we do from year to year is always looking to improve. And it really doesn't matter how good or how bad you do the year before. In this league, you always have to be evolving. You always have to be trying to stay ahead of the curve. And so that's what we're trying to do. We certainly know we need to play better up front. I need to coach better up front. And we're trying to really reinforce like really being physical and coming off the ball and getting some knockback. And we want to make sure that that's a big part of what we do.
And him talking about knockback really sticks out to me because I think that was a major problem that was missing from us last year. Too many times we had a guy like Shy Tuttle who on paper seems a little heavy, but he got pushed around, double teams, couldn't anchor at the point of attack. And once you get movement on that defensive front and get him pushed back, it makes your linebackers helpless. And so guys like Josie Jewell and Trevin Wallace constantly having defensive linemen in their lap almost makes it impossible for them to make plays, particularly in the run game. I think it just comes down to now having guys that we are able to be the hammer instead of being the nail. And that's why I think one of the more underrated signings that we made this offseason and Bobby Brown III is really going to come in handy. This guy is a defensive tackle / nose guard that can really eat us pace, can anchor, has the hip flexibility to have that wide base, and just strong and relentless, has long arms with 34 1/4 inch arm length, and that allows him to shed blocks with ease and just play with a level of physicality that we were missing last year. Here, Bobby's going to be lined up at the 3 technique here on the left side of the line of scrimmage. Watch where he lines up pre-snap about the 50-yard line, and then watch where he ends up after he makes contact with the lineman before he sheds the block. He's just able to consistently play on the other side of the line of scrimmage and generate power. Look how low he is. Look at his helmet. His helmet is lower than the lineman, just slightly, but he's able to get those hands inside. Look at the left hand's inside the pass. The right hand is also underneath. He's going to forklift the guy's arms as he tries to block him, completely sheds him and overwhelms him. Look at him use that violent push to separate from the blocker and make a play on the ball carrier for a loss of yards here. Just, again, getting knocked back is what it's called. Getting knocked back instead of getting driven off the ball like some used to happen to us last year. Look, he at the 50-yard line, once he gets in the backfield, he's probably about the 48-yard line, about 2 yards within the backfield, able to shed the block with perfect timing. Running back doesn't have a chance. Bobby Brown just showing some nastiness right here on that one. Brown's going to be lined up here on the right side at the 3 technique, and they're going to try to get a down block on him to run right at the direction he's at, but he's able to shock the blocker and make a play on the backfield. Just look at the knockback that I'm talking about, and they're going to try to get the down block by the tackle. Watch how low he is compared to that. Look at that wide base he maintains as well. Now he drives his feet. The hands are located inside, and he's able to get all the leverage because of the pad level and the hand placement. Very powerful, nasty. Look at the offensive lineman off balance, sheds the block with perfect timing, and makes the play on the running back, consistently able to play on the other side of the line of scrimmage when he's able to generate this type of power and nastiness on a consistent basis. So I'm excited about what Bobby can bring. No offense to Bobby Brown, but we also brought in some pass rush help as well. aka Tershawn Wharton from the Kansas City Chiefs, is a guy that, although he's undersized, he's shown toughness and ability to play the run in that Super Bowl. But what he really gets after it is in the pass rush game, going against centers and guards, showing underrated power and bull rush ability and just a high motor to get after the quarterback. This is a guy that I'm super excited about because we may not have had this type of interior rush in a long time here in Carolina. And this is that type of guy that can really turn it on. Wharton has flashed some good pass rush reps against some quality guards. Here he's going to be lined up here at the 3 technique against Chris Lindstrom, one of the best guards, and he plays in a division. Of course, he's going to benefit from getting a one-on-one opportunity because Chris Jones is on the other side. But you see him get the hands inside, bull rush, get hands on the quarterback and affect the pass, turns into an interception, and they get a creative return. But let's run it back and see how he worked on this pass rush. So he comes and gets an angle that attacks half of the man, gets him to open up, gets that right hand inside first to shoot within the inside of that pad. Once you get inside of that chest plate, you can kind of control. He's able to stay low and get that leverage. He bench presses him back. Watch him use that left arm to turn his shoulder and get it free, pushes that arm up to get it off him to free himself, and affects the quarterback, hits that arm, and it turns into a pick the other way. Just a great job using power and then hand placement to free himself. Look at those leg drives, boom, boom. And then get that free, we get a pick, we're going the other direction. Just affecting the quarterback using power. Again, this is our very own Robert Hunt. He's going to be going against here on the right side. He's going to get a bull rush here as well off of play action. So initially, he comes out of his stance playing the run, but once he gets those hands inside, you can see him drive Robert Hunt back and able to turn the corner that flushes Bryce. Bryce is fast enough to be able to create after that, but the pressure he was able to get because of the power to make Bryce uncomfortable, you can see that happening here. Comes out of that stance, boom. Look how low he is compared to Robert Hunt. Robert Hunt is way bigger than him in terms of height and weight, but Turk is able to play with that leverage. He's pushing those hands, keeping himself clean, pushing those arms back, got the hands inside and the chest plate, being able to create all the leverage that he needs to stay low, and tries to free himself at the end, but it still flushes Bryce as well, still gets the pressure. Bryce is able to run out of the pocket and escape and make something happen, but this is what Turk Wharton can bring to the table. The other free agent we added to the trenches is Pat Jones, edge rusher from the Minnesota Vikings, who is a guy that plays with high energy and effort, the common denominator in all these guys we've added. A guy that was a rotational guy, more so up in Minnesota. He's going to get a chance to earn his stripes and get a bigger supply of plays to really showcase his talent. I mean, he's tough and his ability to set the edge. He plays the run very well, has inside, outside pass rush ability, which is really going to be a wild card to keep defenses on their heels and give another little thing that the Panthers can throw as a little twist to keep these offenses guessing. Here, Jones is going to flash some of that speed, the power, and relentlessness. He's going to line up in that 4-point stance on the right side on the edge and just watch the speed, the power, the boom. Bench press that lineman to shut him at the last second once he sees the quarterback dictate where he wants to go and violently makes the play, man. Poor Will Levis on this play. Watch the power. Gets his arms inside. Look at the lineman's position, bro. He's just shot. He got hit with a shotgun blast to the chest. Benches him back. Once he sees that the quarterback is trying to escape, he quickly sheds him, makes that play on that, just relentless and violent on arrival at the quarterback, man. And you got that fishing rod out there to make sure he don't go too far away. But again, what I like is the ability to play from the inside and also when to be able to give this defense some versatility. He's going to be here lined up right to the left of the center and just watch the cross chop to get around. He barely misses slippery old Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray gets away, makes a play out of it. But you can see the quick move and the quickness that he did to be able to win here just right away on against the guard. Boom, cross chop, gets that arm up. The long step to get through, the lunge through, chops the arm down. The lineman whiffs on his blow. Now he's able to get to the top and bend and run the hoop. Gets that arm on Kyler, but not able to quite get him down. But you still see what he's able to do and win on the inside. He has the quickness and the size and strength to be able to hold up inside against these guys and win and run that hoop. But he's able to be a problem. One more time, lining up inside here on the left side. He's going to come out that stance and get another hand swipe at the top of the arc. Able to bend that corner, gets held, and able to get hands on Will Levis and get the sack this time around. But just watch the move he's able to put on this lineman, man. The guy comes out of the stance. He attacks half the man. Gives him a hand swipe. The guy whiffs again on the blow that he's trying to block him with. He ends up getting held by the offensive lineman, just doing what he can, holding on for dear life, literally, but he's still able to get home. Goes for the football as well and gets Will Levis down on the ground, man. Pat Jones, man, is a problem inside and out, and I think he provides some versatility that the Panthers can really help mix things up and give offenses fits. And I'm not going to show any film on these guys, but the 3 draft picks in Nick Scourton, Princely Umanmielen, and Cam Jackson are almost carbon copies, yet younger, of some of the guys we had. I liken Nick Scourton to Pat Jones. He's bigger, has that level of physicality, can rush inside and out as well. I think he has great upside because he's only 20 years old. He has a nasty spin move that he runs inside and outside as well. I'm excited to see how this guy can spin. Princely Umanmielen is just a straight up pass rusher. I would kind of liken him to Wharton, but I think he's a lot more athletic, a lot more explosive, and I think he's just a guy that has tremendous upside and confidence in his game to be able to turn the corner on anybody. This is a guy that's going to go to the speed almost every time until you stop it. Once you do, he can set you up, use a little bit of power every so often, but also hit you with some counters with the inside move and the spin move as well. And Cam Jackson is a big body guy, and although he plays high at times, he's shown some streaks of being able to free himself and shed blocks violently as well. I think learning behind Bobby Brown and rotating there will be something that will be very, very good for Cam Jackson early on, but to me, I still think he'll be able to get on the field at some point during his rookie year and attempt to make some plays. You add that to the return of Derek Brown, who is pretty much like a top-notch free agent signing. I'm talking about a guy that's top 5 in his position. I'm talking about a guy that's one of the highest paid guys at his position. In my opinion, the best interior run stopper in the NFL, bar none. He's almost impossible to block in terms of stacking and shedding. He's able to do that with the best of them in the league. All that together with the depth, I think that we're going to have this group that's going to be very, very exciting. I'm hearing that they're going to do a platoon approach where they do rotations, keep guys fresh, mix and match skill sets, just to give a wild card for offenses to account for and make it harder for them to go against. Now, here's a quick look at some of what I'm expecting to see in terms of our starting group in base. And when base, it's going to be that traditional 3-4. I got 3 down linemen and 2 outside linebackers. I do not have the inside linebackers picture here, but you guys get the gist. It's going to be Josie. It's going to be Trevin Wallace. I didn't want to do that exercise right now at this point, but you can kind of use your imagination to see who's out there. But going across the board, I got Pat Jones, Derek Brown, Bobby Brown, Ejiro Robinson, and DJ Wharton. Now, of course, the backup to Pat Jones would be Nick Scorton, and the backup to Wharton would be Princely Umamiyelan on that weak side. This is going to give us, I think, a very formidable front. I'm a little bit about DJ Wharton's ability versus the run, but everybody else, the 4 of these guys, this should be a sound group up front in terms of technique and doing what we need to do against the run. This should give us a solid strength up front as well, and I'm expecting a lot of improvement. Bobby Brown is a monster on the inside. We already know Derek Brown, what he can do lined up at that 4-eye and that 5 tech, and Ejiro Robinson held it down last year as well. This is a group that I expect to really, really get it done. We're not in base a ton, but when we are in base, I'm expecting very, very sound run defense. Now, let's move on to the nickel. Now, with nickel, of course, we take out a lineman, bring in a Sean Smith-Way or Damani Richardson, whomever's playing that nickel position at this time. And then I also swapped out Tershawn Wharton to bring him into the game since more of a passing down, since he's more of an undersized guy. I expect the bigger bodies to be in on base, but Turk to be in more favorable pass scenarios in this scenario. So I got Pat Jones, Derek Brown, Turk Wharton again, and DJ Wharton. When you do this, of course, anybody that's interchangeable on this group is on the edges, and that's going to be Pat Jones and Nick Scorton, Princely Umamiyelan, and DJ Wharton on those edges. Obviously, Derek Brown, I expect him to play a lot as well, but you can also put Bobby Brown in here. You can put Ejiro in there as well to pair with Turk Wharton to give you that size complementary guy. But Bobby Brown's not just some space eater. He can also get after it in the pass rush, and that's part of the reason why he came to Carolina. He was a little bit pissed off online about not getting pass rush opportunities with the Rams, so you can interchange him as well with Derek Brown. But this is just what I think ideal for a safe nickel position to give you balance, since we're in nickel so much of a good front against the run, but also guys that can really get after the passer as well. And the last group we're going to look at is just the NASCAR package. And this is what I thought about because, again, I showed you Pat Jones's inside-out versatility. You can line him up here on the inside. Scorton did the same thing at Purdue a lot, did some of it at Texas A&M when he was a little bit smaller, but he has that ability as well, experience going against guards on the inside. And then, of course, you bring in Princely off the edge and DJ Wharton on the edge. So just a lot of speed on the board. All edge rushers in this standpoint. This would be a guaranteed pass scenario, in my opinion. You wouldn't try to play with this on a rundown because I'm just not sure how much those guys on the interior are going to be able to hold up against the run, being only 260 pounds, going against 320, 330-pound guards. But again, when you want that speed and with that finesse, that's why I called it the NASCAR. This is a group that I think can really, really get after it, and they can do some twists, they can do stunts, pick stunts to really set each other up to make some plays and get after the quarterback. I'm happy we have 4 deep at pass rusher that we can be able to put a group like this on the field. Last year, that really was not the case. We couldn't put in a NASCAR package like this to really get after the guys that we wanted to with some speed and also some moves and stuff. Everybody on this group has a spin move in their bag except for DJ Wharton. So this can be some scary things. Of course, you could always swap out Turk Wharton if you didn't want to put 4 edge rushers. If you don't feel good about Scorton, you can put Scorton in Wharton's spot. Bring in Turk Wharton, who's a great pass rusher. You can do the same thing with Pat Jones. Turk Wharton is the guy that I want in on pass scenarios anyway because of what he's able to do. So this is just another combination of personnel that I just imagined up of what we can do. Very, very exciting thing to think about in terms of where we were last year compared to what we were now. The bottom line is we have options. But I'm happy to almost admit that I actually feel excited about this group up front just because I'm curious about what they're going to deploy out there just based off the examples that I show and this mixture of skill sets that we have. But also, I want to see how much better we can be. The fact that we got so much better on our offensive line from what we were in 2023 to 2024 with that group, I'm expecting the same, if not more, with this group just because the amount of depth and getting Derek Brown back, a top-notch guy. So I'm just excited. It starts and ends up front. This is going to give us a chance to really compete with anybody if this D-line group works out like I think it can. I'm expecting these rookies to really make an impact early on. Hopefully, they end up starting by the end of the year. That would be best case scenario because they earn those spots, not because of other circumstances, knock on wood, but it is what it is. You guys let me know down below in the comments. Give me your favorite combination of D linemen that you think they could put out there in a scenario. I listed 3 of mine right there. What would be your ideal combination on whatever scenario, whether it's pass rush, run defense? Let me know down below in the comments. And how much better do you think this group can be this year? I got to get your thoughts. But make sure you are subscribed to the channel. I see you in the next one.